TBN 24 টেলিভিশন দেখতে আজই কল করুন 7187776556 লগ ইন করুন www.totalcablebd.com।
সুপ্রিয় দর্শক, সবাইকে স্বাগত জানাচ্ছি TBN 24 টেলিভিশন আয়োজিত নিয়মিত অনুষ্ঠান TBN Analysis। আমি হাবিব রহমান আছি আপনাদের সাথে। যারা বাসায় বসে সরাসরি টেলিভিশনের পর্দায় দেখছেন, যারা ইউটিউব লাইভে দেখছেন, যারা পরবর্তীতে ফেসবুক লাইভে দেখছেন, যারা পরবর্তীতে ইউটিউবে দেখবেন, আশা করি সবাই ভালো আছেন, সুস্থ আছেন, নিরাপদে আছেন আমাদের সাথে। আজ যে বিষয় নিয়ে কথা বলবো, এই বিষয়ের বেশ কয়েকটি পর্ব আমরা করব এটির উপর, কিন্তু আজ স্পেসিফিকলি একেবারে বিষয়বস্তু নির্ভর এক তথ্য কিছু তুলে ধরবো আপনাদের কাছে, তো অত্যন্ত গুরুত্বপূর্ণ। প্রথম কথা হচ্ছে, আপনি কি বাড়ি কিনতে চান? যদি ক্রয় করতে চান, কাগজপত্রের জন্য আটকে আছেন, আপনার জন্য আছে সুসংবাদ, এবং এইটি আজকে আলোচ্য অন্যতম বিষয়। সেটি হচ্ছে শুধুমাত্র ব্যাংক স্টেটমেন্টই প্রয়োজন পড়বে আপনার, যদি আপনি ফার্স্ট টাইম বায়ার অথবা সেকেন্ড টাইম বায়ারও হয়ে থাকেন বাড়ি ক্রয় করার জন্য। এটি একটি ব্যাপার। এবং আপনি মর্টগেজের জন্য কিভাবে কোয়ালিফাই করতে পারেন, অনেক প্রতিবন্ধকতা থাকা সত্ত্বেও, এই দুটি আজকে আলোচনার বিষয় থাকবে। এবং এই দুটি বিষয়ে আলোচনা করার জন্য আমার সাথে আজ যোগ দিয়েছেন মাইকেল মুতাজিদি, CPA, Mutazidi CPA LLC, PC rather. I welcome you for today's discussion. I think we're going to have a very good discussion today. So, আপনাদেরকে বলে রাখছি, যদিও ইংরেজিতে হবে, আপনারা যে কোনো সময় প্রশ্ন করতে পারেন। আমি এটি ট্রান্সলেট করে নেব আমরা, এবং এটির উত্তর দেওয়া হবে। এবং উনি চেষ্টা করবেন যথাসম্ভব ধীরগতিতে এটা বোঝানোর, কারণ উনি অত্যন্ত অভিজ্ঞ ব্যাপারে এবং অনেক দিন যাবত এই ব্যাপারে কাজ করছেন। কাজে আমি অনেক দিন ধরে চিন্তা করছিলাম যে এই বিষয়টাতে সম্পূর্ণভাবে আলোচনা করা দরকার। কাজে আজকের এই বিষয়টি, এই দিনটি, এই রাতটি রাখা হয়েছে সম্পূর্ণ এই বিষয়ের উপরে। মাইকেল, let's talk about this. So first, we always have a challenge. There are people who wants to buy a house. Regular people, working people, some people, well-to-do people. They have good amount of money. Some don't have good amount of money, but they face challenges. First challenge is paperwork, right? So we hear a lot of people. They will come and they will say, "I have the money, but I don't have the paperwork in place." And one of the challenges is, show me your last 2 years of income. Show me your last 24 months of income. Show me your tax return. Show me your bank statement. Show me where this money come from. Show me your deposits, where they're valid or not. All these challenges become a critical component for, and a lot of people disqualifies. We are discussing today so that these people who usually get disqualified, you are saying there's a way, and there are legitimate way of doing this. So first, I want to hear from you, people that just have bank statements, they can prove they have income.
That's correct.
And what would be their steps? How can they buy a house, even if all the paperwork's not in place?
So with bank statement financing, it's actually pretty interesting. Basically, they can look at either the last 12 months of bank statements. What they require is to go through the deposits, even though you may not show it on your taxes. A lot of self-employed individuals have lots of deductions. So what we call the Schedule C is very low. And a lot of people, the traditional people, think that the last 2 years, they got to push that up, but that's not the case. A lot of lenders let everyone do what they call using bank statements to qualify for a loan. And what they do is they count all the deposits for the last 12 months. They then ask for a letter from a CPA like myself to say what I believe the expense ratio is. We know the expense ratio is not 75%. It's 25%, 30%. And they take that, and that's where they get the income from to qualify for the loan.
Okay, so let's take one thing at a time. Mm-hmm. For an example, we have someone who's watching our show, mm-hmm. and he or she is self-employed, and the bank statement is there. What would be that person's steps to qualify to buy a house. There's a paperwork that she needs. Because a lot of people who are watching today will say, no, it doesn't sound legitimate. Maybe there's something fishy. So let's break this down.
So the first thing I would need to qualify for someone for this type of financing is the last 12 months bank statements.
Last 12 months. 12 মাসের bank statement. Okay, then?
I would then look at the deposits, not the withdrawals, but actually the deposit, the money that's going into the account. And I have to break through what is personal and what is actually from the business. So if you're an Uber driver, Lyft driver.
Yeah, let's take a Uber driver example.
Okay, a lot of the Uber drivers, they make like $125,000. But they write off everything on their tax returns. So they would never be able to use it to qualify for a loan. And in this type of program, the rates are very similar to the regular rates you guys hear about on the news. And what happens is we just count the Uber or Lyft income. And then we get a CPA letter, we attach that to it. So say it's $100,000 and the CPA says, hey, it's 33%. That's the expenses we're going to use. We're not going to use what we do in taxes. Reason being is very simple. Depreciation is a non-cash. It's not real. It's something for the tax code.
Okay, so if we break down this information, what you just gave me is, let's say, for example, we have a Uber driver, he or she makes $120,000 a year. And expenses, income, and subtraction. And then it shows on our tax file. And you said this is not important. I know. Tax files of, let's say, $50,000 for whatever the reasons are.
Okay.
So this person's income is $120,000, but on her tax return, that person pays taxes of $50,000. And that person is buying a house that is, let's make believe, of $500,000. How does that work in your case? What you are going to do, or what you are going to look into it, and what the mortgage companies look into it?
So the mortgage company is going to be the same ways I look at it. I look at just the income coming in from the business. I don't count anything else. I count the income coming from the business. So that person has $120,000 of income, and say we use rough estimate 30% expense ratio. That's going to come to like $90,000 of income, because that's real income. That's not anything else. That's real income, and that's where the banks are looking at it. The ones that do the bank statement financing look at what does that really look like in real life, not what did you do the last 2 years, or what did you write off.
Okay, so that's one component. One component we figured out that income is an income, and that's what you're going to look at, not the expenses. Okay, now the second most important part that comes as an obstacle is the credit rating.
Yes.
What do you do about that? What is the requirement credit rating? And what can you do about this? Some people may have 500, some have 600, some have 700. So 700, 650 and up, you're good.
Correct.
Below that,
you can go with as low as you really need to, can go with like 620. And you have to have good reasons why your credit score is that way. The banks are going to ask for that. The banks are going to say, why do you have a 620? So you have to have really good reasons why you have a 620. Is there other bills? Is there this? Or you just pay off this? Or COVID? Whatever the reason is,
in other words,
okay.
There is a way to buy this house. Bank statement is one of those things. You're going to look into income. However, your credit history should be good. Or not outstanding.
You don't need, that's what I'm trying to say, you don't need to have amazing credit. It's not like, oh, you're the best borrower in the world. It's that everything can be done. The difference is, instead of looking at your taxes, they're looking at the bank statements.
Okay.
That's where this separates.
Explain that to me in a different way for a lot of people, which is, a lot of people will say, hey, listen, I have only 3.5% down. I'm looking for a house that is $500,000, but I don't think I can deposit or pay $25,000 down towards the house. Is it possible to do that? Because $500,000, $600,000, 3.5%, comes down to about $20,000, $30,000 or $40,000, not $100,000. If that is a yes, why it's a yes? Is it a risky thing to do? what are the cons and pros for this?
Sure. So, I mean, you're talking about the FHA loans.
Right.
Okay. FHA loans, the bank statement financing, not going to work. You need to have 10% down. That's the lowest you could do. Okay. But for FHA in particular,
So regular bank, 10% down, minimal.
for like the using the bank statements.
Using the bank statement.
Correct.
Okay, so আপনারা যারা শুনছেন ব্যাংক স্টেটের মাধ্যমে কিন্তু বাড়ি কিনতে পারবেন আপনাকে আপনার ইনকাম দেখা হবে খরচই দেখা হবে না কিন্তু সেই ক্ষেত্রে ব্যাংকে আপনাকে অ্যাটলিস্ট 10% ডাউন পেমেন্ট দিতে হবে না 3.5%. So I just explained to them for people who are for Bangla viewers. But let's talk about the 3.5%.
Okay.
Who is it for? How one can qualify for this, and what are the requirements for this?
So the minimum you could put down is 3.5%, but also there's always that upfront PMI percentage that goes on the loan.
Right.
So it's not just 3.5%. It's 3.5% plus closing costs. So you got to escrow, you got to have, taxes.
Yeah, I think the closing costs. I have different questions, separate question on that. I'm going to come to it.
Okay.
So all the PMI, regular cost, the closing costs, all they're going to come into this equation when you are actually closing and taking over the house.
Correct.
But this is, I think, this is understood in general term that we know this is going to come into. But who qualifies for 3.5%? Meaning, do you have to have 24 months of work? Do you have to have a W-2? Can you be on 1099?
You could definitely be on 1099. You could definitely be on W-2, but on an FHA loan is for someone who really doesn't have a big down payment. Credit score is not the biggest thing. Again, you could do it at 620.
Right.
But it's really for somebody who has a very low down payment, doesn't have a lot of cash to put down in the house. But in that situation, the old school thought process is, yes, they're going to look at the last 2 years' taxes. They're going to ask for the last 2 years W-2. But they're also going to, for self-employed, it gets very, very tricky. Very tricky.
I have to take one question right now, and then I'm going to come back to the other questions about down payments and 10% and 3.5%, plus the cost, the closing cost, because there are a lot of people who think the closing cost of 20,000 or 30,000 or 40,000. What is actual closing cost? That's my question. I'm going to come back to that. কে আছেন আমাদের সাথে ফোনে?
Habib bhai, hello.
হ্যাঁ শুনছি বলুন.
Habib bhai, how are you?
I'm good, Howard. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Okay, we know that you was in Ukraine for a few days last.
Yes, I was.
Okay. Anyway, if somebody's credit line is totally broke, how he can buy a home with the loan?
Okay, তাহলে I have question for you. Let's say your credit is not good, not so good, right? But how's আপনার income কেমন আছে? How's your income?
Income is fine, near about 70,000-80,000.
And এটি কি গত 2 বছরের ধরে, last 2 years?
Just the last 19 was bad because of pandemic. Other is fine.
And যখন আপনি বলছেন ক্রেডিট খারাপ, এটির একটি সংখ্যা কি বলতে পারবেন যে এটি কত খারাপ?
It's totally broke.
এবং এটি কি কোনো মানে আনরিজনেবল রিজনের জন্য?
No, it was the reason because of I had a taxi medallion once. The taxi business was totally broke. That's why I dropped.
So এই মেডালিয়নটার কারণেই?
Yeah, only for that one.
Okay, very good question. Okay, ধন্যবাদ আপনাকে ধন্যবাদ. So this is a question actually I was looking for. The caller who called has an income of 70,000 to 80,000 a year, and a consistent income, but his credit broke. It went down significantly because he had a medallion, and we all know what happened with the medallion business. So the question is, everything all fall in line except for the credit reputation.
Right, but it also depends on what that credit score really is.
Yeah.
I have banks that can do 580.
I pressed him to get a number, but my understanding is this is totally broke. That's his word.
So best thing you could do with something like that is have a good qualifying, what do you call it? Like someone else to go on the mortgage. Like a co-borrower, sorry. And that's
Co-applicant or co-borrower.
It's co-borrower.
Okay.
It's co-borrower because that
Co-borrower.
person's actually going to have their name on that mortgage.
Okay.
But in that
So
situation,
that's the only way out for
or, I mean,
in
the
this
other option
scenario.
is to talk to someone who does credit repair.
Does it work?
Yes, so someone who has a couple things that work for credit repair.
I haven't seen anybody who actually can. A lot of people claim, and that's I'm deviating from it, but from our original discussion. I'm going to come back to you, but since we are on this topic, does credit repair, does it work?
It definitely works.
Do you have seen people that actually repaired their credit? And if you did, how long did it take?
Perfect. I did for one of my clients actually. Okay. Credit was in the low 500s. It took a couple months, but now what I did was I had him open a secure credit card where you put.
So you are giving us the way to fix it. Let's hear.
He opened up a secure credit card.
Secure credit card?
Where you have to put money in. It's sort of like a
you
debit
open up a card putting down $5,000.
Right, and you could only use $5,000. So what I did was I had him every month. I would charge him $1, and I would have it auto pay, so he could never not pay it on time.
All right.
Okay, it's been like 3, maybe 4, I don't know, 5 months. His credit score is like 636 today.
Okay. আপনারা যারা this is interesting. I have to break it down because this is where this caller is not one that has this issue. I think there are many of us have this issue. Many of us, not you. If that makes any sense. That was a bad joke. Let's get back to the topic. উনি যেটি বলছেন যে ক্রেডিট কার্ড ফিক্স করার অন্যতম একটি উপায় হচ্ছে আপনার ক্রেডিটের একজন ভালো কারোর সাথে পরামর্শ করা, তার মধ্যেই আপনি একটি সিকিউর ক্রেডিট কার্ড খুলে সেটিকে অটো পেমেন্টে রাখা এবং 4-5 মাস পরে সেটি একটি ভালো পর্যায়ে চলে আসার কথা। এটি একটি ব্যাপার, এর বিস্তারিত আমরা আলাপ করব এবং ভালোভাবে আলাপ করব। Before I deviate to a different question, one question came here, which is, can a visitor buy a house?
Yes.
Okay, so মোহাম্মদ মহসিন, আপনার প্রশ্নের উত্তর হচ্ছে যে ক্যান এ ভিজিটর যারা আসছেন ট্যুরিস্ট হিসেবে আপনি কি বাড়ি ক্রয় করতে পারবেন কিনা? Simple answer is yes. এটি হয়তো আমরা we'll go into detailed discussion later. Let's get back to the original topic because there are some questions. So credit repair does work.
That's correct.
That's correct. Okay.
And it's very simple to do in that type of situation.
Okay. Can I ask you another question?
Sure.
Some people charge you, or there are people who actually claims that they can fix credit and they will charge you a lot of money, but you don't see any progress. There are two questions here. One is, does it work? I know there are some scams. We all know that. And if it does work, what would be your time frame to see any reflection of going up or down?
So they do, I've seen it work a couple times. They've gone to some different companies. I've seen it happen, especially due to the COVID crisis, to be able to get certain things off the credit.
That's a good point. Because of the COVID crisis, we can take advantage of that. If it is recently year and a half time frame?
I have not seen that happen.
Okay.
Now, there are different reasons people have bad credit.
Okay.
Right? Some people just forget to pay their bills.
They do.
Right. So if you do what I was saying earlier, you could just you don't have to worry about it. It pays itself. Most of these people don't have they don't have a credit card, they live off their debit card. If something's automatically, all the credit reporting agencies are going to see that.
Okay, so you have a credit card and you set to auto payments. The credit report company sees that and that works for your benefit.
Correct.
Your advantage, rather.
Yes.
Okay, good. দর্শক আপনারা যারা দেখছেন, আমি আশা করি আপনারা শুনতে পেরেছেন যে ক্রেডিট কার্ডের যদি রেটিং খারাপ থাকে আপনার অন্যতম প্রথম কাজ হবে ওপেন আপ এ সিকিউর অ্যাকাউন্ট, একটি সিকিউর ক্রেডিট কার্ড নেওয়া এবং তার পেমেন্টটি অটো পেমেন্টে রাখা। এবং আপনি এটির পরিবর্তন, আপনার ক্রেডিট রেটিংয়ের পরিবর্তন দেখতে পারবেন 4 থেকে 5 মাস বা 6 মাসের মধ্যে। দিস ইজ দ্য টাইম ফ্রেম জেনারেলি এটি হয়ে থাকে। ওকে, কামিং ব্যাক টু ক্লোজিং কস্ট। I'm going to come back to closing costs. I have to take another question.
Sure.
কে আছেন আমাদের সাথে?
জি, আসসালামু আলাইকুম।
ওয়ালাইকুম আসসালাম, শুনছি, বলুন।
জি, আমি একটু স্যারের সাথে একটু কথা বলতে চাই।
আপনি প্রশ্নটি করুন, উনি শুনছেন।
জি, আমি
আপনার ফোনটি একটু হাতে নিয়ে, আপনি যদি স্পিকারে থাকেন, স্পিকার থেকে অফ করে হাতে নিয়ে কথা বলুন, মানে স্পিকারটা অফ করে কথা বলুন।
জি, এখন শুনতে পারতেছেন না?
জি, বলুন।
জি আমি জানতেছিলাম আমি অ্যাকচুয়ালি ওই ট্যাক্স অ্যামেন্ড করছিলাম অক্টোবরে, তো আমি ওই স্টেট থেকে রিফান্ডটা পাইছি, বাট ফেডারেলটা এখনো পাইনি। তখন কি করতে পারি, কতক্ষণ লাগতে পারে আর কি?
আচ্ছা, আপনি ডেট অ্যামেন্ড করেছিলেন, হোয়াট ডাজ দ্যাট মিন? আপনি ট্যাক্স ফাইল অ্যামেন্ড করেছিলেন?
অ্যামেন্ডমেন্ট, ওই যে হোম কেয়ার আছে না, অ্যামেন্ডমেন্ট করছিলাম ওইটা অক্টোবরে, তো এখন পর্যন্ত ফেডারেলটা পাইনি, স্টেটটা পাই গেছে অলরেডি।
স্টেটটা পেয়ে গেছেন, ফেডারেল। ওকে, সো ইটস a tax related question. He filed an amendment because he had home care income and all these things. So he received the state refund, but he did not receive the federal yet.
Okay, so there's
What could cause this?
it has to do with the backlog of the IRS. My best suggestion is to go. You could type into Google, "Where is my amended return?" You could look it up, and you can see what the progress is.
Okay, আপনি গুগলে যাবেন, আপনি টাইপ করবেন where is my amended return, এবং আপনাকে আপনি লিংক পেয়ে যাবেন IRS এর। ওখানে যে আপনি অনেক সময় রেজিস্টার, sometimes you have to register, right?
No. So you just type in the refund amount, your address, and your social.
On IRS website.
Right.
কাজে আপনি যখন যাবেন IRS এর লিংকে, ওখানে আপনার কত অ্যামাউন্ট, আপনার হোম অ্যাড্রেস দিবেন, জিপ কোড, তাহলে আপনাকে দেখিয়ে দিবে যে আপনার রিটার্নটা কোথায় আছে, কোন অবস্থায় আছে এটি। ওকে, গোয়িং ব্যাক টু দ্য ডিসকাশন again. We have this general understanding that if you are buying a house for make-believe $500,000, the closing cost should be somewhere in 25 or 30,000. And sometimes it's people. There are people who take advantage of this, and they actually boost it up to somewhere in 40,000. I've seen, I heard, not seen. What is a down payment, and what it should be, and how do you calculate that?
Sure. So with the down payment itself, you can go 5 to whatever you want, up to 50%. But like when you do the 10%, you have what they call PMI.
Right.
Right. So if you're trying just to avoid PMI, obviously you need the 20%. But going back to your question about
PMI is a house insurance for the insurance.
Correct.
Right.
Private mortgage insurance.
Private mortgage insurance. Okay.
Okay. But with the closing cost question, it's really that the way they jack that up, as you speak about, it's really about buying down the rate. A lot of people go shopping for a rate. Someone tells you an amazing rate. Well, there's a cost to that.
Okay, so you hear that I can get you 2.75%, which is the lowest if you can get today. Some will say 3%, some will say 3.75%, right? So somebody's telling you, hey, I can get you a mortgage, 2.75. What's wrong with that?
It's simple. There's a reason their low is 2.75, because you're actually buying down the rate.
What does that mean?
So you're basically taking
in layman's term.
You're going to be paying the lender quite a bit of money to get that rate.
How?
So they take the loan amount, and it's how many points.
Let's put a number. So
all right, let's just say we're doing a $500,000.
$500,000. Okay.
Right, $500,000 loan, right? So say it's 1 point. They say I'll get you a 2.75, which is more like 2 points. But let's say it's 2 points.
Okay.
Okay. So we know that's.
I'm happy.
Oh, it's going to cost you $10,000.
How's that?
Because that's not the real rate.
What's why do you say it's not a real rate? And what's the real rate?
Most likely the real rate is like 3.5.
3.5%.
Correct.
Why don't I see that? Why don't I know that as a buyer?
Because they didn't give you what they call a good faith estimate.
They is the lender.
Lender. A lender is required by law.
Okay, so people get tricked into it. Is it within my rights to ask the lender to show me that rate?
Yes, it is.
And how do I request that?
It's part of the regular disclosures. They have to send that out to you.
They have to send it out. You have to sign it and agree with it and
Correct.
send it back to them. If you don't see that agreement or disclosure, rather,
right, then they're in violation.
They're in violation.
Correct.
But most of these things happen not knowing. So people who are watching, what would be your advice to them? Because I'm going out there to get to shop for a house. Let's make believe I'm a first-time buyer, so I don't have any experience. All I have is heard from this guy, that guy, my friends, my neighbors, but I really have not gone through this process. If somebody's watching our program today, what would be your advice to that person when that person is out shopping and buying a house?
You got to shop around. If someone's rate is too good to be true, it usually is. I mean, it's just how it is. You can't be someone that has the lowest rate.
Okay, that I understand because you know it too well, so you just really summarize it. I would love to know the step 1, 2, 3, 4 that the person would go through, but I'm coming back to you because I have a question.
Okay.
কে আছেন আমাদের সাথে?
হ্যালো
জি শুনছি, বলুন।
হ্যালো, আসসালামু আলাইকুম।
হ্যাঁ, ওয়ালাইকুম সালাম।
আমি বলতে চাইতেছি যে হাবিব ভাইয়ের কাছে একটা কোশ্চেন, যে হোম ফার্স্ট টাইম ডাউন পেমেন্ট অ্যাসিস্টমেন্ট প্রোগ্রামে আমি একটা দরখাস্ত করছি এবং ওরা অনলাইনে আমার কাছে যে ইনফরমেশন গুলা চাইছে ওগুলা দিছি, কিন্তু ওরা যদি কোনো রেসপন্স না করে বা কোনো উত্তর না দেয়, আমার কি সরাসরি কোথাও যোগাযোগ করার কোনো ব্যবস্থা আছে কিনা বা আমার স্টেট
আমি একটু
আছে আমি কিভাবে জানতে পারবো?
আচ্ছা, আপনার কাছে আমার প্রশ্ন হচ্ছে আপনি কোথায় অ্যাপ্লিকেশন করেছেন?
এটা হোম ফার্স্ট ডাউন পেমেন্ট অ্যাসিস্টমেন্ট প্রোগ্রাম ব্রোঞ্চে।
Are you familiar with this? Okay, so her question is she applied, she have not heard, what can she do to get some update?
Okay.
ধন্যবাদ আপনাকে।
First, you took the class, I'm assuming, got the certificate. Then there's only, I think there's 20 now lenders that are approved. I know there's Dime Bank, there's New York Community Bank.
Finish it.
Okay. So, I mean, you got to understand where you are in the process. You have to be able to qualify without that $100,000. So you have to have at least, say, 3.5%, 5% down. Then the bank actually goes out and goes and tries to get that $100,000 from, New York, assuming there's money in the fund. If it's not, you're still closing with only that 5% down.
If someone like her contacts you, would you be able to help?
I would be. I would be. Those two lenders I spoke about, I have very big contacts with them.
Okay, so I just want to translate this. So I think this is a huge thing that people should know. যে যিনি ফোন করছিলেন আপনাকে বলছে এবং আপনার মতো অন্য যারা আছেন যারা এই কোর্সটি করেছেন আপনারা নিশ্চয়ই সার্টিফিকেট নিয়েছেন। মাইকেল যিনি বসে আছেন এখানে, ওনার সাথে যে কথা হচ্ছে, এই লেন্ডারদের দুটি বড় লেন্ডার আছে যাদের সাথে ওনার লেনদেন খুব ভালো, এবং আপনার যদি প্রয়োজন পড়ে আপনি কিন্তু মাইকেল মোতাজেদি একটু সার্চ করে নেবেন, MOTAZEDI, এটি সার্চ করে তার অফিসে অ্যাড্রেস পেয়ে যাবেন, আপনারা যোগাযোগ করতে পারেন। আপনার স্পেশালি আপনার ক্ষেত্রে আমি বলবো ইউ শুড কন্ট্যাক্ট হিম অ্যান্ড আপনি আরও ইনফরমেশন নেবেন এবং এটি প্রসেসটা আপনার পরিষ্কার হবে এবং হি ক্যান স্পিড আপ। আমি আশা করছি যে আপনি যোগাযোগ করবেন এবং এটি করে নেবেন, কারণ এটি বেশি দেরি করলে দের ইজ আ টাইম ফ্রেম, ওইটা দেরি করাটা ঠিক হবে না। ওকে, নাও that going back to this, and this program is very important.
It is very important.
This program is very important. A lot of people may qualify, may not qualify. People who will, this type of programs, a lot of people will, I think they will need help, and they should go to somebody who can really help them out. It should be simply easy process if you know the steps.
Correct.
Talking about the steps, a person who's buying a house for the first time, out shopping, what are the things that he'd be looking and what are the steps that he has to follow?
So the first thing you got to do is I would go see your local bank to get an idea of what the fair rate is.
Always people say local bank gives you a hustle because they ask for all the paperwork, and that's why people are not interested. I'm not sure. I'm just saying.
I'm just telling you how I would say, okay, what do I think a fair rate is?
Let's start from there.
Just go to the local bank and
So
say,
go to
where
the
rate?
local bank, find out the rate.
Right. So say they tell you it's 3.5.
3.5.
Right.
For
then
example.
you talk to a couple mortgage brokers and see what they can offer you. And that's the way to see what the fair rate is, because the mortgage broker should not be able to beat the bank.
I'm going to stop you there because this is an important part. আপনারা যারা বাড়ি ক্রয় করার জন্য খুঁজছেন বা দেখছেন, আপনাদের প্রথম অন্যতম কাজ হচ্ছে আপনাদের আশেপাশে যে ব্যাংক আছে সেখানে যাবেন, যে বলবেন যে আমি বাড়ি খুঁজছি, এই বাড়িটি এত দাম, তুমি আমাকে কত পার্সেন্ট লোনটি দিলে কত পার্সেন্টেজ পাবো আমি। আপনার ব্যাংক যে রেটটি দিবে এটি নিয়ে আপনি নেওয়ার পরে তার কাছ থেকে আপনার লোন নেওয়ার দরকার নেই, আপনি অন্যান্য মর্টগেজ ব্রোকার আছে তাদের সাথে কথা বলবেন এবং দেখেন তারা আপনাকে কী রেট দেয়। দুটার মধ্যে একটা কম্পেয়ারের একটা জায়গা আপনার তৈরি হলো তখন। স্টেপ 2.
Step two is that once you get that far in the process, and again, you just go into the local bank, just ask them what their rate is, not giving them all the paperwork.
Yeah. No
because
paperwork.
they are a nightmare to deal with.
Okay, I know. এবং that's exactly what I hear. So আপনি যখন আপনার ব্যাংকের কাছে যাবেন, সিম্পলি জিজ্ঞেস করবেন যে তোমরা যে মর্টগেজ লোন দিচ্ছ এটা রেটটি কত। কোনো কাগজপত্র দেওয়ার দরকার নেই, ওরা চাবে, অনেক কিছু বলবে, আপনি শুধু অতটুকুই শুনবেন। সো আপনার একটা জেনারেল আইডিয়া হয়ে গেল। দ্যাটস ইট। সো হি গেটস অ্যান আইডিয়া অ্যাবাউট হোয়াট হিজ লোকাল ব্যাংক ইজ অফারিং অ্যাজ অপোজ টু হোয়াট দ্য মর্টগেজ brokers are offering.
Correct.
So once you get to these things, you have some sort of idea what's the rate is going to be like.
Exactly.
Now what?
Now you can make a decision of who you want to work with, who you trust.
Okay.
And not everyone has a simple W-2. They
So
just don't.
now it comes to step 2, which is very crucial. If I am আপনি যদি দ্বিতীয় স্টেপটি হচ্ছে আপনি কি W2 না আপনি সেলফ এমপ্লয়েড অর্থাৎ 1099, এই দুটি যখন আপনি জানেন, আপনি নিশ্চয়ই জানেন আপনি কি করবেন, তখন আপনার হাতে দুটি তথ্য। একটি হচ্ছে আপনার ব্যাংক আপনাকে একটি রেট অফার করেছে, আপনার মর্টগেজ ব্রোকার একটি রেট অফার করেছে। আপনি এখন জানেন আপনি W2 না 1099, এটি আপনার হাতে আছে। Then what?
Then once you speak with the person who's handling your mortgage, they will be able to go to the correct lenders. Not every lender is identical. You know, there's different ways we can structure things. There are a bunch of lenders in California. They're private lenders, and that doesn't mean the rates are higher. It just means they look for different things because of what they're going to do next once they close on your loan.
Right.
But you know, a good mortgage broker knows this stuff. And a good mortgage broker doesn't go to rip you off.
A good mortgage broker should know his stuff.
Should.
Should know his stuff. Okay. So what's number 4?
Once they tell you, they say, okay, this is what the rate's going to be. You have to decide if you're going to lock today. They should tell you the pros and cons of locking the rate. Locking means the rate won't go up, but you have to close in that time frame.
What's the time frame?
You can go up to 60 days. I've seen it as high as 90, but generally
90 is pushing it.
Very pushing it, and you're going to pay
Because
for that.
interest rate can change.
Correct. As you've seen
For
in the last week.
various reasons.
You've seen in the last week, interest rates went way up,
How much?
almost half a point.
Half a point. So what was the percentage before?
So right now it was
Generally speaking.
Generally speaking, historically it's been last
It's
year
low.
3.
Yeah.
Right now it's like 3.5, 3.6.
Yeah.
You know,
Point and a half.
Right, and last week it was back to 3, but now it's back to 3.6.
3.6 now.
Yeah, 3.6, 3.5. It depends on. It really depends on your credit score and everything else.
Okay. Here's the other question. Somebody comes to you. Let's make believe that person we're talking, that imaginary person we're talking about, went to his local bank, went to the broker. Make believe you are the broker.
Okay.
And then he comes with, say, I am 1099. I have this income. I like that house. I know like is not a word. I know. But let's make believe he says, I want that house. Even I know want is a bad word too. Let's say I need this house. This is the house I need for my family. And I think I can afford this house.
Okay.
Now, what do you do with this person? What is the first step? And how do you organize this paperwork? Where does it begin? What do you tell him to bring it?
So the first thing I'd like to see is, as you guys always hear, the tax returns.
Tax returns.
Because there's certain lenders that's what they do. If we can't go that route, which 95% of the time we can't. We just can't. We go through the bank statement lenders that just look at the bank statements, and that's the way to move forward. And then, as my job is to find the best rate.
Your job is to find the best rate out there in the market.
That's correct.
I'm going to come back to it, but most people stop on their track as soon as you ask them for last 2 years of your tax paper. And a lot of people hearing this, maybe they're hearing this for the very first time. Oh my God, what this guy is maybe saying something doesn't sound right. It sounds fishy, suspicious, right? I'm not sure if this is the law. Maybe they are breaking the law. Are we?
No.
How's that?
Because they're not they're not a normal mortgage. You go to Citibank, Bank of America, wherever you go, they're going to pull what they call the 4506s, which is to get your tax transcripts.
Right.
These banks do not. They're built on wholesale lines. These are different lenders. Their job is simply they're not looking to hold your loan. They're looking to do the loan and looking to sell your loan.
The banks.
With the bank statement financing. You're not going to have the same lender the next month.
Yeah,
That's where they make their money.
Yeah, by selling the loans.
Correct.
But that's not for our viewers. I mean, not so much because it's like that's like after the facts, right?
Correct.
Okay. So you, as an expert mortgage broker, what do the Spider-Man say? Your friendly neighborhood? Spider-Man.
They were Spider-Man, yeah.
So you are the expert. A lot of people are frustrated. A lot of people are finding hard to buy their house, especially if that is a second house, not the primary residence. These are the people who are watching today. What would you tell them?
So if it's a non-occupying house,
Maybe.
we have many, many options. It's actually, believe it or not, easier.
I
you're
would
not
say
living
in
in it.
90% cases, non-occupied house because it's vacated. It's vacated. Nobody's there.
But
it's up for sale.
Right, but that's not how the mortgage companies look at it. Are you going to live in it? That's the number one question.
Okay. So what
If
do answer?
the answer is yes, we have to use their full documentation like W-2s, 1099s, normal stuff, or use the bank statement program. And then there's one other program. If you have a lot of money in the bank,
A lot of money in the bank.
right, there's something called the asset qualifier program.
Okay.
Where they take a percentage of whatever cash you have in the bank. That could be cash, art, anything that's real value that's liquid. That could be sold tomorrow. Okay? They could take a piece of that.
Okay. So two scenario I'm going to put here. One, I already own a house that has equity. That's one scenario. Two, which is not asset, but a lot of people actually received a lot of money through a lot of programs in recent days. I know you're laughing. I know you were laughing, but you know what I'm saying. So a lot of people have loans. They have acquired some cash through the loans. One who already has a house, has equity built into it or acquired. That's one group. The other group, which is not asset, but the liquid cash is there sitting in the bank. What would you do for them?
So the ones that have the liquid cash, okay, first of all, we have to figure out where it came
Let's
from.
say I received $200,000 from SBA loan.
You're gonna say that.
I know. I said
So
it.
there's a way that with SBA, you're not supposed to be using the money for this.
We know
I'm
that.
saying it right now.
Yeah.
Okay. But assume you don't care and you want to do it anyways.
Yeah.
Let's say that, right?
Yeah, that's the but.
Yeah, that's exactly. But again, that would provide that 20% down payment that everyone speaks about.
Okay. So there are buts.
But here's the but. If it's a recent SBA loan, they're going to source the deposits. So they need to know last 60 days they look at big transactions. $200,000 SBA loan is a big transaction.
Yeah.
Okay.
SBA will track your transaction if it is a big transaction.
Yeah, so
how big of a transaction?
Anything over $5,000 to $8,000, the
Right.
bank sees in the last 60 days, they will look to source. Source meaning go back and show me where it came from.
The bank will look into
Correct.
it, not the SBA.
No, that's not
But
the
the guy
SBA.
you
The person
paid.
you're trying to get the mortgage from.
Okay, so there has to be some fine line you need to walk, and there are ways.
And that's just even the same thing. If
Okay.
someone gave you gift money, they're still going to look at the same thing.
Same thing, gift money. Okay, but okay, it is further discussion.
Exactly.
We can't discuss everything on the air, but however, there are things that needs to be discussed
Correct.
and agreed upon. I'm guessing.
Yes.
I think
Yes.
on the right track.
Yes, we are.
Now let's talk about the people who have equity, but finding it difficult to buy the second property.
So the way to do that is you can do there's something called a portfolio loan where you get a loan on, you have a loan right now.
Yeah.
You're going to go buy a new house. You put a loan on the whole, as a whole,
Together
together.
as one loan.
Correct.
From a new guy.
Yes. So it pays off the old loan. You have a new loan. It's called cross-collateralization. And that's the way to do it. The other way to do it is if you have your primary residence, you say you're going to move into this, you can still get a new loan on your new primary residence, and you do what they call an investor loan, and to take out the old loan.
I think I like that idea. I do think. The process is same or process generally same or there are huge
No,
differences?
you're doing two loans.
Two loans.
Two loans.
You can have one loan, lump
Correct.
them together.
Right.
Or you can have two separate loans.
Correct. And what happens when you do a portfolio loan, there's a certain amount that's allocated to this property, a certain amount allocated to that property. So if you sell this property, it has to be, you have to use the proceeds at that point.
Now, it's the really important question. Many people are asking, is this the right time to buy a property?
Well,
or I'm getting into a hot water.
This is a very hot market. Okay.
It's a hot market.
It's a hot market.
It's demand's high, supply is not so much.
Correct.
Okay.
It's definitely a hot market. Absolutely. And look, I am a real estate broker, so
course.
I
You
have
wanna sell.
Exactly. So I have to look at both sides. But the truth behind it is, the only thing that's changing right now are the interest rates, and they're going to go up this year quite a bit. That's
Even
why
higher.
Even higher. They're not going down.
Okay.
Okay. They're definitely going up. Inflation has caused a problem. War has caused the problem.
Right.
Right. So you got a lot of stuff working. The Fed knows they have to increase
Do
the rates.
something about the
They've
interest
already
rate.
announced they're going to do
Of
it
course.
to stop the inflation. Now, here's a problem with real estate. Real estate goes up if
People are
inflation,
listening.
if
People are
inflation
listening.
goes up. So what's going to happen? Inflation rises, so does real estate prices.
Of course.
So at the end of the day, if you don't buy now, you're just going to have a higher payment and a much higher payment.
Okay. I need to translate this. This is important. যারা দেখছেন অনেকের মনে প্রশ্ন আছে, এখন কি সঠিক সময় কিনা বাড়ি ক্রয় করার? There is no right time. এটি একটি জেনারেল স্টেটমেন্ট, নাম্বার ওয়ান। নাম্বার টু, আপনি যদি এখন না কিনেন, বাড়ির দাম আরও বাড়বে। জেনারেলি সেটি হয়ে থাকে। So people who are watching, you would advise them to do what?
If you're going to buy now. Do not wait, because the rates are just going to go up. Everyone's assuming if the rates go up, the prices go down. But the rates are going up for a reason. They're going up to stop inflation. And inflation is making the real estate prices rise. So you're just going to have a higher payment. The price of the house is going to go up.
Higher payment, higher interest.
Right, everything. It works
lose
against.
on both sides.
Right. And the better way to look at this is, if you're looking, it depends how long you're looking to stay in that house. If you're going to stay there at least 10 years, 15 years, it doesn't matter if you buy now. You're not losing out.
I agree. Mike, I thank you so much for joining me today. Discussion is not done. There's quite a few components that we can break it down and actually help a lot of people. So we're going to end it today here. We're going to continue this discussion next week again, because I have a lot of questions. You intrigued me. So I'm sure a lot of people are intrigued by this. আপনারা যারা অনুষ্ঠানটি দেখেছেন, আমরা আজকে আলোচনা করছিলাম বাড়ি ক্রয় করার শুধুমাত্র ব্যাংক স্টেটমেন্ট ব্যবহার করে ক্রয় করা সম্ভব কি সম্ভব না। আপনারা শুনছেন সম্ভব। এখন বাড়ি কেনার কি সঠিক সময় কিনা সেটিও আপনারা শুনলেন। ইয়েস, দিস ইজ দ্য রাইট টাইম। এখনই সময়, কারণ এটি ঊর্ধ্বমুখী, আরও উপর দিকে যাবে। কাজে আপনারা যদি সিদ্ধান্ত নিয়ে থাকেন, Mike Motazedi, it's one of the best in the business.
Thank you.
That's what I hear. So আপনারা তার শরণাপন্ন হতে পারেন। Try him, see what happens. I really appreciate your tonight's discussion. I thank you so much.
Thank you.
And coming to the studio, making time. We'll talk more.
All right. Sounds good.
আশা করি অনুষ্ঠানটি ভালো লেগেছে। যদি ভালো লেগে থাকে, শেয়ার করবেন, জানাবেন। কোন অংশটি বাদ পড়েছে আমরা তুলে ধরার চেষ্টা করব। যেখানে থাকবেন, ভালো থাকবেন, সুস্থ থাকবেন, নিরাপদে থাকবেন TBN 24 টেলিভিশনের সাথে, কারণ TBN 24 বিশ্বজুড়ে বাঙালির কণ্ঠস্বর। শুভরাত্রি।
TBN 24 টেলিভিশন দেখতে আজই কল করুন 7187776556। লগ ইন করুন www.totalcablebd.com।